This morning I sat down when I had my brunch and my coffee, and I was like, let me just pull some cards and kind of see if there's anything that comes up for me as I kind of sit here in my morning prayer. And the first card that I pulled is the protection card. And if you're watching this on any of the places you can watch it, you know the difference if you're listening to it or watching it. That'd be weird if you didn't. It is a big, beautiful tree, and there's like lightning up above, and you can see that there's the shade underneath the tree, and there's almost like a path that's leading to sitting underneath this tree, right? So the idea that that's really protecting us. And I thought about, isn't that interesting? Because I think in a lot of ways that we feel like our labels protect us, that they keep us safe. They, again, this idea of like underneath the tree, that we can kind of all be there together and like, huddle around. And it's this thing that makes us feel safe. And I think that's so much of where that anger comes from, and that feeling challenged of, well, if you're challenging my label, whether directly or indirectly, then the reason for this very real anger that exists, I mean, I'm talking like visceral, vehement, just like dark anger. I think a lot of it is generational. Like I said, I think a lot of this has been brewing and brewing and brewing for a long time. I think that just over the past couple of years is when it's all really risen to the surface. It's been kind of we've been eating cake and eating cake and eating cake, and now we've finally thrown up, and it's like, okay, let's figure out, like, investigate kind of what happened here. It's like, well, we've been fucking eating too much cake. Like, what do you mean? It's not that, difficult to figure out why it made us sick. And I think it's the same thing of like this anger that exists is a real sickness, so much so that we have grabbed on to all of these labels in a way that, we think makes us feel safe. But it's like, if you're using it like this, and you have your knuckles up, it's like, this is my label. It's like, well, then do you really feel safe? Because you're already like ready to kind of go into battle in this thing. And so what I think that labels should be is a sense of self-protection, not from others, but from the idea of that when we feel protected, we feel safe. So how can you create these labels, these identifiers for yourself in a way that it's like, that makes me feel safe? And also going, and then it's okay if, we can stay curious about other people's anger. Listen, let me say, I know that none of these things are easy. I mean, I listen to one thing on the internet, or my husband's like, did you read this story? And I'm like, I can't today. It'll make me too angry. So I get it. I'm not like, listen, we can all just like meditate and pull a card and then we won't be angry anymore. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm just saying this is interesting. Isn't it interesting that all of our labels a lot of times sometimes are to keep others out rather than to embrace and find people who identify like us? I think there's a lot there. And then secondly, I thought this was interesting. It's a very different card. This is the embracing card. Embracing. And there's just like this beautiful bird and all of these kind of bright lights, and it's, looks very peaceful, but there's a little bit of action, and it's a lot of like kind of reflection from the water, and the sun is going down. And I think that's so interesting, of the idea of like that the sun is going down rather than coming up, because it's this idea of like embracing. To me, if you're going to hug somebody, you have to open your arms to them first. In order to embrace something, you already have to be open. And that's what I thought was interesting, of like, embracing to me doesn't mean your hate speech is okay, or, like anything around that are like the big, big issues, right? All the way down to like, you don't like me because I am blank or whatever, right? Even like the very kind of those micro things that exist for us. That when we kind of stay open to things, it's easier to stay curious. It's easier to embrace them and go, oh, isn't that interesting? Like a phrase I've been using a lot in my life recently is, oh, tell me more. Because I have this tendency, as we all do over the last couple of years, to assume that we know exactly why. Oh, that's why you said that. Oh, that's why you voted for that person. Oh, that's why you think that's okay to say that. Oh, okay. Well, we don't say that word anymore. This is the word that we say. Like, because so many of us do want progress and we want equity for everyone and we want like all of these things that we're experiencing. But I think sometimes even to each other, even people that like should be of like mind that are just kind of arguing over the like semantics of it all. And it's like, okay, we are completely just like just missing each other on this thing. That I have found typically if you ask enough questions, I've always say it's like give somebody enough time and they'll show you exactly who they are. And I feel like it's exactly that of like, if you say, tell me more, if you're creating a space where you are ready to embrace somebody, your hands are down, somebody will share a lot more about themselves and it'll tell you a little bit more about like, oh, isn't that interesting that that's your perspective? Again, labeling it right or wrong is a totally different conversation, but at least understanding, having some insight as to how somebody arrived at that place is interesting, because it's the same way I think about, the idea of like hashtag manifestation or this or that, like we can't expect people who have been raised in completely opposite environments than us to see things exactly like us, even if it's like, yeah, but didn't you see the article? This is the evidence. So I don't understand how you don't see it. That's the thing as somebody who's been like perpetually broke, whether through circumstance, privilege, or, like generational trauma, and then going like, yeah, well, you could just go out and like get a job. So I don't know why you don't, or like you could do, where it's like people are like, oh, I'm going to teach you how to manifest like, 6 figures in 3 months. And it's like somebody is not going to go from being a barista where they're not meeting their basic needs. And I don't mean like being financially without. I'm saying for whatever reason, they have been in traumatic environments or whatever, or I'll speak for me, like, to get to where I am now from where I started when I quit drinking, I wasn't like, even the first vision I had where I was like, oh, I think I'm going to be like this speaker, but I don't really know what it is yet. Like I was living in a tiny ass apartment. I was broke. I had a broken down car, like, in a SAG card. And that was basically it. Like it wasn't just because like I saw it or I knew what it was, that it was like, well, now you do it. Like there's so much growth and change that has to occur in order for somebody to kind of get to this other place. It's the same thing. Like if you can kind of embrace that people are infallible, that people are not perfect and multifaceted and have a lot of different labels and have all of their, how much we love to throw that quote around of like, you never know like what somebody else is struggling through. Yet if they say something on the internet that we don't like, we're like, burn them. And we again have, there's no spectrum for conversation, grace, or love. So I just thought that was interesting that I got the protection card and this idea of embracing it. So I just encourage you to kind of take that into your life in whatever way that that's meaningful for you, of, what are the things that keep you protected and make you feel good? And what are the things that you're kind of embracing? And also what are the things that you've been embracing that you've outgrown? What are those things for yourself? And what are new things that you can create, labels, identifiers, community, etc., that maybe you're ready to embrace something new? And what does that look like? And how does that feel? And that you don't have to, go in shielding yourself, and you don't have to go in, huddled up and scared, that you can kind of just stand up tall and kind of open those arms ready to embrace something new. So just a thought, not an easy, clean lesson, but definitely worth thinking about. So that's it. That's what I've got for you. I am so grateful to you all for listening and kind of hearing me out in all of this. I think it's really complex, and I think it's really affecting all of us. And I think, this sense I think there's just so much in healing, and this is just my own perspective, where it's like, what, like you're a star seed or astro, past lives and all these things, which I love. I think they're all fun, but ultimately we live here on earth, and we're on here on earth in order for a reason. And if you believe in the sense of Holy Spirit, if you believe in God, if you believe that there's something greater, it's like, why are we all spending our time here waiting to go somewhere else? It's like, God willing, you got a good runway. Like, let's take all of these gifts, let's take all of this time and really begin to help and heal and serve. Like, why do it any other way? Because we all still have to pay taxes and like deal with the bullshit. So at the very least, like with the things that we get to choose and make choices about, like, you know, let's make them in our highest. So anyway, didn't stick the landing, but I promised you that at the beginning and then again at 13 minutes. So it's on you. This was fun. This was fun though. Oh, she had fun. Not as much fun as I'm going to have this Friday night at Dynamic El Dorado in Atlanta at 8 p.m. If you're around, come and watch me with some other very funny fools doing some improv. I've got that. It's an hour-long show that's at 8 p.m. this Friday at Dynamic El Dorado. You can come out and watch me do some make-em-ups, which is super fun. And you'd be like, wow, that's really wild that she could do both. You know what I mean? Get you a girl who can do both. Okay. Again, if you want to jump on that group reading, please do. My books are also open for one-on-one 60-minute energy readings. I'm also still offering mentorship sessions. So if you want to do some creative coaching or maybe some spiritual mentorship, I'm open for all of that as well. So all of the details of the ways to connect with me and work with me, all of that is under the Work With Me page on my website. As always, if you like this podcast, please tell a friend, send it to somebody. You can leave me a review on both. She's getting tired. Can you feel it? Spotify and on Apple. So please do that and let people know that you just love it. You enjoy it. It's too much fun. Also, if you're not following me and subscribing over on YouTube, what? I do all sorts of card reads, different fun stuff. I've got some segments and different things that I'll be rolling out there. So even if you're not really a big YouTuber, but you would like to support me in a way that's super easy, please go and find me over on YouTube at The Rachel LaForce Show and just hit subscribe. I would love you so much. Also, I have a new text feature. So if you enjoy quotes, card reads, and intuitive messages, you're going to want to join me. You can text Rachel to 866-692-3792. No, that's not right. I'm going to put it in the show notes because I was just like 866-692-3692. I don't think that's right. There's a 37 in there. Anyway, I will put it in the show notes, but you can do that. And you're listening anyway. You're not going to grab your phone and write this down. What are you, a monster? So just check the show notes. It'll be there and all the other places, but definitely check that out. Again, it's totally free. So you'll just text Rachel to that number and you're going to get some weekly insights. So that's just a great kind of fun way, again, that we can connect, even though on our phone, but it feels a little bit more personal than this. So I would love to do that with you. Yeah, thank you so much for listening. Again, it just boggles my mind that we're here and we have so many more fun places to go. But yeah, for now, stay in it, stay light. Love you, mean it.